Tonight you might pour yourself a drink, a glass of wine after a long day, a cold beer with friends. You'll think it's a choice, a small modern habit, invented by bored people with too much free time. But the real answer is far stranger. The pull you feel toward that glass did not begin in a bar or a vineyard or even inside a human being. It began around 10 million years ago, in the body of an ape that had never seen a grape it didn't have to climb for. Alcohol did not begin with us. Alcohol made us first. Picture a forest, deep, humid, ancient. In its canopy lives your distant ancestor, a primate whose whole life revolves around one thing: finding ripe fruit before anyone else does. Ripe fruit is rare. It is precious. So how does a small, hungry animal find the exact moment a fruit turns sweet? It follows a smell. When fruit ripens, tiny yeasts land on it and eat its sugar. As they eat, they release a chemical into the air. Your ancestors learned, over millions of years, that wherever that scent grew strongest, a feast was waiting. That chemical was ethanol, alcohol. This is the heart of an idea from a biologist named Robert Dudley at the University of California, Berkeley. He called it the drunken monkey hypothesis. The attraction you feel toward alcohol is not a flaw. It is an inheritance. The apes that loved that scent ate better, lived longer, and passed the craving to their children. So your love of alcohol is one of the oldest hungers in your body. But there is a deeper piece. When some of these apes came down from the trees, they found fallen fruit that had been sitting on the ground, fermenting, far stronger than anything in the canopy, strong enough to poison them. So how did they survive it? They evolved a better engine. A biologist named Matthew Carrigan traced a single mutation in an enzyme your body uses to digest alcohol called ADH4. Around 10 million years ago, that enzyme suddenly became about 40 times more efficient at breaking down ethanol. The ancestor who learned to eat fermented fruit is the same ancestor who evolved to handle it. Your body was redesigned to drink long before you were human. Now the story jumps forward, millions of years pass. Your ancestors control fire, tell stories, and eventually start making fermented drink on purpose. And here the story gets strange. Ask most people how civilization began, and they'll say the same thing. First we farmed grain, we made bread, then we settled down. Bread first, then everything else. But an anthropologist named Solomon Katz asked a different question. What if it wasn't bread that came first? What if it was beer? Early wild grain made poor dry bread. So why would hungry people spend generations growing more of it? Katz's answer was simple. Maybe they weren't chasing bread. Maybe they were chasing the buzz. Soak that grain, let wild yeast in, and it becomes a drink that lifts your mood and brings people together. A drink worth working for. Beer first, then bread, then everything else. For years this was only a theory. Then the ground gave up its evidence. A biomolecular archaeologist named Patrick McGovern studied the residue trapped inside ancient pottery. In a village called Jiahu in China, he found the fingerprint of a fermented drink brewed 9,000 years ago, older than writing, older than the wheel. At Göbekli Tepe, in what is now Turkey, people built massive stone monuments before they had fully settled into farming. Inside giant stone vessels, researchers found traces of fermented grain, enough to serve a crowd. Before we reliably fed ourselves, we may have been gathering to drink together. Why? Because alcohol does something no meal can. It lowers the walls between people, it softens fear, it turns strangers into a tribe. For a species that survived only through cooperation, that was not a luxury, it was a tool. So the drink in your hand may be a descendant of the very thing that taught humans to live together at all. Now come back to tonight. You reach for a glass and think it's about relaxing. But underneath that simple act sits an unbroken chain. The friend raising a toast, the farmer planting grain to brew again, the human at the great stone circle, the ape on the forest floor following a scent it could not name toward the food that kept it alive. Every one of them wanted the same thing you want. Not the alcohol, the feeling around it, the warmth, the belonging. That is why alcohol has never gone away. You are not fighting a modern vice. You are wrestling with one of the oldest forces that made you who you are. Because your ancestors didn't invent alcohol after they built the world. They may have built the world so they could keep drinking. Tonight you might pour yourself a drink, and when you do, you'll be answering a call that started in a forest 10 million years ago, in the body of an ape that smelled something sweet on the wind and followed it all the way to you.